Hello everyone, I am Robert. My parents tried to give my inheritance to their favorite daughter. But my grandparents had a surprising twist in store. I am a 28-year-old male who comes from a family with a convoluted and long history of favoritism. My younger sister, Nancy, who is 25, has always been preferred by my parents, especially my dad, starting from our childhood. This partiality only got worse as we grew up. Nancy was the golden child from my earliest memories. For example, our parents threw her an elaborate birthday party, complete with professional face painters, a bouncy castle, and a petting zoo, when I was 5 and she was 2. That same year, I only had a store-bought cake and a little family supper for my birthday. This helped to define the tone for years to come. The differences became clearer as we aged. Nancy always received the newest toys, the greatest clothes, and the most attention. I recall saving months of my allowance to buy a new bike when I was 10 years old. Nancy saw it and wanted one too. Instead of teaching her about waiting or saving, my parents went right out and bought her an even nicer bike than mine. Another area where the bias was evident was in school. My parents attended all of Nancy's school functions while they usually missed mine. I took the front stage in a school play in the 4th grade. I practiced for weeks, driven by great enthusiasm. My parents arrived an hour late on the night of the play, missing my major scene. They were consoling Nancy after she complained of a stomach ache, though she was fine later on. They simply lost track of time playing with her. Regarding academics, nothing I ever did seemed sufficient. I joined the math club, often received straight A's in middle school, and even took first place in a regional science fair. My parents hardly noticed these successes. Meanwhile, they gave Nancy a celebratory dinner and purchased her a new phone as encouragement when she scored a B+ on one test in her weakest subject. High school was particularly difficult. With an eye toward their approval, I put myself into whatever activity I could, all while maintaining a 4.0 GPA. I was the editor of the school newspaper and the debate team captain. Nancy, on the other hand, coasted through school, barely maintaining a C average and spending much of her time hanging out with friends. I was chosen as one of 2 junior-year applicants from our university to participate in a prestigious summer program at Harvard. It was such an honor, and I felt great. When I shared the news over supper, my dad grumbled and quickly shifted the topic to Nancy's forthcoming dance performance. At least my mother remarked, "That's nice," but she moved on fast. My parents couldn't even bring me to the airport when Nancy's concert fell on the same day I was leaving for Harvard. They wanted to see Nancy perform, so I asked the parents of a friend for a ride. Another agonizing experience was the college application process. I worked for months on improving my essays, engaged in extracurricular activities, and prepared rigorously. Several elite colleges accepted me, and I was given a sizable scholarship to my ideal college. When I told my parents about this over supper, their reaction was barely passable. "That's good, but don't let it get to your head. College isn't everything," my dad advised. My mother added, "Just remember about us when you're off becoming a big shot." On the other hand, my parents were quite understanding when Nancy barely passed high school and chose not to attend college. They admired her for knowing herself and for defying social expectations, something they never did for me. They even bought her a car as a graduation gift. Emotionally, this persistent favoritism affected me greatly over my teens and early 20s. I battled anxiety and despair and began therapy in college. I came to realize that my parents' actions were not my fault. Years of effort were needed to build my self-esteem and learn to validate myself rather than depend on my parents' approval. My immediate family did not help me, yet I still managed to lead a decent life. By the time I graduated from college with honors, I had a decent job in finance and even purchased my own house by 27 years old. Though my parents weren't proud, I was glad for what I had accomplished. Here is where the current drama begins. On my dad's side, my grandfather passed away not too long ago. He left a sizable estate and was a successful businessman who started from nothing. In his will, he split his possessions equally among his grandchildren, including me, Nancy, and our cousins, as well as his children, my dad and his siblings. My portion of the inheritance was significant, roughly $500,000. It would have allowed me to invest in my future, pay off my education loans, and perhaps even launch my own company someday. This unanticipated windfall and the opportunities it could present made me happy. However, when the will was read, my parents clearly became agitated. Later, they pulled me aside and told me that they felt it was unjust for me to receive an equal portion. Nancy, who lives in our parents' basement and works part-time at a coffee shop, said she needed the money more since she was struggling. Though stunned, I tried to remain calm. I clarified that Grandpa made this decision and that they had no say in how he divided his estate. They insisted I should act morally and give Nancy my share. When I declined, they became enraged and began guilt-tripping me, calling me ungrateful and selfish. My dad started recalling every instance where they had helped me, even though I worked part-time to help with finances. He emphasized paying for my medically necessary braces, buying me school supplies, the bare minimum, and allowing me to reside at home during college. He conveniently forgot about the car they bought Nancy, the many shopping sprees, and the fact that they still support her at 25. The matter escalated quickly. Acting as the will's executor, my dad decided to handle things himself. He declared that he would interpret Grandpa's intentions and give Nancy my entire portion. He claimed that Grandpa would have wanted this if he had known our unique situation. I was devastated. What my parents attempted was not only illegal but also a painful reminder of how little they thought of me. I pointed out that Grandpa had always treated all his grandchildren equally and that he was aware of our circumstances. I tried to reason with them, but my mother accused me of speaking ill of the deceased by implying that Grandpa would have preferred anything other than what my dad was advocating. I shared certain memories of Grandpa supporting my academic and career goals, but my parents dismissed them as misunderstandings. They insisted that Grandpa wanted to ensure Nancy was taken care of and had privately expressed concerns about her future. When I asked why he hadn't drafted the will that way, they had no response. Nancy, for her part, seemed awkward about the situation but didn't criticize our parents. She merely shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best." When I tried to talk to her alone, it was clear she wasn't going to be much help. Feeling misled and hurt, I turned to Grandpa's widow, my paternal grandmother, for guidance. Hearing what was happening, she was enraged. She informed me that my parents had no authority to alter the will and that this was exactly what Grandpa had not wanted. Grandma sent some documents that clarified the situation. Several years ago, my parents had asked Grandpa to leave everything to Nancy in his will. Grandpa had steadfastly refused, saying he believed all his grandchildren should be treated equally. He even included a clause in his will stating that anyone challenging the fair distribution would lose their share. Armed with this knowledge, I confronted my parents. Grandma's revelation of their previous attempt to influence the will stunned them. They tried to justify their actions by saying they were only looking out for Nancy's future, but I could see the guilt on their faces. Grandma took immediate action. She contacted the will's other executors and the family attorney. She also reached out to my dad's siblings, who shared her strong disapproval of what he was trying to do. Together, they stopped my dad's scheme and ensured that the will would be carried out as intended. Although my parents are unhappy with me, they were forced to back off. They argued that I should have handled this in-house instead of involving others and accused me of turning the family against them. My mother cried, saying that I had split the family and betrayed them. I told her I had never expected anything from them anyway. In response, my dad threatened to cut me out of their will entirely if I accepted the inheritance. He went so far as to suggest that I would not be welcome in their home should I inherit. In a particularly low blow, my mother remarked that accepting the money proved I never truly loved them and that I was just waiting to profit from their deaths. This situation has divided the extended family. A few of my cousins have been supportive, as they understand the long-standing favoritism and appreciate me standing up for myself. Others, however, believe I should have backed down to preserve peace, arguing that family harmony should come before financial considerations. Although my dad's siblings are firmly on my side, this conflict has strained their relationship with my parents as well. Nancy, unfortunately, is caught in the middle of it all. She confided in me privately that, while she feels bad and didn't ask for any of this, she isn't ready to challenge our parents. She's been conditioned her whole life to depend on them and seek their approval. I don't blame her entirely, but a part of me wishes she would support me just once. This ordeal has brought back a lot of past pain and resentment. I find myself remembering all the times I was overlooked or dismissed in favor of Nancy. The birthday celebrations I missed, the school events my parents skipped, the achievements that went unnoticed. This one incident seems to be bringing a lifetime of unfairness to the surface. Although this conflict has created a great divide in the family, I am standing my ground and intend to take my inheritance as Grandpa intended. My parents barely speak to me now, and family gatherings have become tense and awkward. Last week, I missed our monthly family meal for the first time ever because I couldn't bear the cold shoulders and accusing glares. Despite the turmoil, a small part of me feels empowered. For the first time in my life, I am confronting the unfair treatment from my parents. I'm asserting my value and refusing to be dismissed. It's both terrifying and liberating at once. Even though I believe I'm in the right, the family drama is exhausting. I haven't felt this overwhelmed since college, and I've started experiencing anxiety attacks again. To help manage this stress, I'm considering going back to therapy. Am I wrong for standing up to my parents and accepting my inheritance? Should I have just handed everything over to Nancy to keep the peace? While I'm tired of being the family scapegoat, I also fear losing my family entirely. Any advice or perspective would be deeply appreciated. Update. Since my initial post 6 months ago, a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their support and guidance. It truly kept me strong during these trying circumstances. Let me start with the legal aspect of things. Many of you advised me to consult my own attorney, and I did. He confirmed that I had every right to inherit and that what my dad attempted was, in fact, illegal. He helped me record everything and was ready to act legally, should the need arise. Fortunately, things did not transpire that way. Along with my dad's siblings, my grandma and her attorney worked out the matters without involving the court. I got my entire fortune, and the will was carried out exactly as intended. Due to his attempts at will manipulation, my dad was removed as an executor. This was a somewhat demanding process spanning several weeks. My parents threatened litigation. There were tense meetings and furious phone calls, but ultimately, the law was unambiguous, and they had to back off. The family fallout, however, has been noteworthy. At first, my parents doubled down on their viewpoint, accusing me of being avaricious and neglectful of my sister. They also sought to mobilize other family members against me, spreading allegations that I had somehow coerced Grandpa into giving me money. Luckily, most of the family saw through their trickery. About a month after the will's acceptance, there was one particularly unpleasant occurrence at a family gathering. My parents showed up unannounced. My aunt was hosting and hadn't invited them. They started a scene, shouting about how I had taken from Nancy and corrupted Grandma against her. My dad claimed that I had ruined all these wonderful memories, and my mother flung an old photo album squarely at my feet. It was awkward and terrible. It took several relatives to calm things down and persuade my parents to leave. Bless her heart, my grandmother turned out to be my most powerful supporter through all of this. She shared stories of how my grandfather had always been proud of my achievements and how he especially wanted to ensure that all his grandchildren had equal opportunities. She even revealed that Grandpa had maintained a scrapbook of my accomplishments, including newspaper clippings of academic honors, copies of my college acceptance letters, and even the program from a university play my parents had been late to attend. This insight was both sad and wonderful. Grandma also volunteered to straighten the record with the wider family. She organized a family gathering, excluding my parents, where she laid out the entire history of my parents' partiality, including events I had long forgotten or never even heard about. Having someone finally recognize the unfairness I had endured for years was vindicating, but it also reopened old wounds. Regarding my sister Nancy, she finally found her voice in all this. She came to me personally and apologized for not standing up for me earlier. After some soul-searching and several long talks with our grandmother, she admitted that while she also felt our parents' favoritism was improper, she had been too scared to confront it. We discussed our childhood and how it had shaped both of us in great depth and with emotional intensity. Nancy confessed that being the favored child wasn't as wonderful as it seemed. She never learned how to stand on her own 2 feet and felt immense pressure to live up to our parents' expectations. She told stories of times she yearned to accomplish things independently, but our parents would swoop in and handle everything for her, depriving her of the opportunity to develop and learn from her mistakes. For our relationship, this talk marked a sea change. We began to mend the sibling bond that our parents' partiality had broken. Just the two of us have been routinely meeting for coffee to discuss and support each other through this family crisis. Nancy's declaration that she was going to pay for college with her inheritance astonished everyone. She said that seeing me stand up for myself inspired her to start managing her own life. Once she decided what she wanted to study, she enrolled in a nearby community college, intending to transfer to a 4-year university. Our parents were taken aback. I think they knew deep down that their babying had not done Nancy any favors. Their response to all of this has been varied and changing. Initially, they attacked both of us angrily, trying to guilt Nancy into quitting college to help the family, claiming that I had turned her against them. When that failed, they changed tactics. After several protracted talks with my grandmother and witnessing Nancy's remarkable transformation, my mother began to acknowledge how damaging their actions had been. She has made some tentative moves toward reconciliation, even beginning therapy to address her issues. She reached out to apologize, admitting that she had been unfair and requesting a chance to make things right. It's a slow process, and while I'm cautiously hopeful, I'm also maintaining firm boundaries. Sadly, my dad has been less willing to accept any responsibility. Still furious, he sees himself as the victim in all this. He has been cold toward Nancy since she chose to go to college and hardly speaks to me. He has tried a few times to manipulate us, threatening to sell our childhood home if we don't come to our senses, or forgiving us if we realize we were wrong. Although we are both standing strong, it hurts to see him distance himself from both of his children like this. The dynamics among the extended family have changed dramatically. I now live closer to my dad's siblings. The support I have received from my grandmother, aunts, and uncles has been quite helpful. Having heard from them about handling my dad's challenging conduct over the years, I feel less isolated in this fight. This situation has also deepened my bonds with some of my cousins, who stood by me. As a result, we started a monthly cousin meal, allowing us all to catch up, free from the drama of the older generations. For myself, I have been making sensible use of my inheritance. Having paid off my college loans, I now feel an incredible sense of financial freedom. By working with a financial advisor, I have assembled a varied investment portfolio. I've also set aside some funds with the potential to launch my own company a few years down the line. One idea I'm exploring is opening a community center that offers reasonably priced mental health treatments and financial literacy seminars. However, the most significant use of the money has been buying therapy sessions for myself and volunteering to do the same for Nancy. Both of us are learning to set reasonable boundaries with our parents and are working on healing from our childhood experiences. Though it's a long road, I feel like I'm growing in knowledge and ability to overcome emotional neglect and long-term favoritism. This whole process has brought some surprising positive changes into my life. I now have a much clearer understanding of how to establish limits and defend myself. While I know I did the right thing, it hasn't been easy, and there are still difficult days. Despite this, I feel proud of myself for resisting guilt and pressure. One of the most unexpected results has been a shift in my career path. Dealing with family conflict and undergoing therapy has helped me see my own passion for supporting people who are dealing with similar family dysfunction. I'm currently considering returning to school to specialize in helping adult children of emotionally immature parents and eventually work as a family therapist. I've also been volunteering at a nearby youth facility, assisting young people from challenging family backgrounds. Being able to offer the kind of support and encouragement I wish I had received as a child has been immensely satisfying. I'm even considering using some of my inheritance to create a scholarship fund for children from similar circumstances. My contact with Nancy has been improving steadily. Once a month, we have a siblings' day where we do something enjoyable together, just the two of us. Our hiking and picnic last month were the most relaxed and connected I've felt with her since we were small children. Without our parents' influence, we are gently rebuilding our relationship on our own terms. Regarding my parents, things remain complicated. My mom has been making efforts to rebuild our relationship by regularly attending therapy sessions. She has even started to recognize some of the damage her favoritism caused. We've had a few one-on-one lunches where we've engaged in honest, albeit challenging, conversations about our past and future. While our relationship isn't perfect, there is visible improvement. My dad, however, remains resistant to change. He still maintains that he did nothing wrong and insists that Nancy and I should be more appreciative. He refuses to be in the same room as me, which has caused him to miss several family functions. Though it hurts, I am working on letting go of the need to make him see things differently or control his reactions. For both Nancy and me, our grandmother now serves as a steady source of support. She has been sharing more stories about our grandfather and his pride in us for standing up for ourselves. Always an advocate for justice and understanding, she has become a fantastic mediator in family conflicts. This entire journey has taught me a great deal about the true meaning of family. I've come to realize that sometimes the family you choose can be more supportive than the one you were born into. Alongside building a close-knit circle of friends who have been incredibly helpful, I've grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who stood by me. Setting boundaries and practicing self-care have become more essential to me than ever before. I'm getting better at saying no to situations that compromise my mental health, and I no longer feel guilty about prioritizing my personal well-being. For a long time, I was so focused on gaining my parents' approval that I neglected to explore new interests and hobbies. To anyone in a similar situation, I would advise, don't let anyone make you feel guilty about claiming what is rightfully yours, even if it causes controversy. It's okay to stand up for yourself, even though family dynamics can be complex. You deserve fair treatment. Remember, it's never too late to start building the life you deserve. Seek therapy if necessary. Surround yourself with supportive people, and don't be afraid to set boundaries. Your worth is defined by who you are, not by how your family treats you. I want to thank each of you again for your suggestions and encouragement. They meant more than you might realize during a very trying time. Although the road has not been easy, I am looking forward to the future and feeling a confidence I haven't experienced in years. I am excited about where this new chapter in my life will lead, and am determined to break the cycle of favoritism, creating healthier relationships in my own future family. Regarding my parents, things remain tricky. My mom has been making efforts to rebuild our relationship. She has been routinely attending therapy and has even begun to recognize some of the damage her favoritism caused. We've had a few one-on-one lunches where we've engaged in honest, though challenging, conversations about our past and the way forward. Although it's not perfect, I can see signs of improvement. My dad, on the other hand, still resists change. He insists that he has done nothing wrong and believes that Nancy and I should be more appreciative. He refuses to be in the same room with me, which has caused him to miss several family functions. Though it hurts, I am working hard to let go of the need to compel him to see things differently or to control his reactions. For both Nancy and me, Grandma now serves as a source of stability. She has been sharing more stories about our grandfather and his pride in us for standing up for ourselves. She has always been a strong advocate for justice and understanding, making her a fantastic mediator in family conflicts. This entire process has imparted many lessons about the true meaning of family. I've come to realize that sometimes the family you choose can be more supportive than the one you were born into. Alongside developing a close-knit circle of friends who have been incredibly helpful, I've grown closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who stood by me. Setting limits and practicing self-care have also become more crucial to me. I'm getting better at saying no to situations that compromise my mental health, and I no longer feel guilty about prioritizing my personal well-being. For so long, I was preoccupied with trying to gain my parents' approval, which made me neglect exploring new interests and hobbies. To those in similar circumstances, I would say, don't let anyone make you feel guilty about claiming what is rightfully yours, even if it causes controversy. It's okay to stand up for yourself, even though family dynamics can be complex. You deserve fair treatment. Remember, it's never too late to start building the life you deserve. Seek therapy if necessary. Surround yourself with supportive people, And don't hesitate to set boundaries. Your worth is defined by who you are, not by how your family treats you. I want to thank each of you once more for your suggestions and encouragement. They meant more than you could have known during such a challenging period. Although the road has not been easy, I am optimistic about the future and feel a sense of self-assurance that I haven't experienced in years. The possibilities that this new chapter of my life presents are exciting, and I am determined to break the pattern of favoritism and build healthier relationships in my own future family. Thank you for reading. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more real-life stories happening around you.